this comes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just received it today, just in time.
Excellent, excellent. All right, now we are officially live. This is just my first time
Okay.
setting this up. For those playing at home, you haven't missed anything. We're just catching up. One of the things we were saying was Victor and I we talk a lot, but just sort of via email. I gotta figure out which glasses work for me. But because of the time difference, I'm all the way on the west coast of the United States, and he's over in Spain. So there's maybe like a 10-hour time difference or something like
Mm.
that. So we talk a lot, but usually it's through WeChat or email and that kind of thing. Not so much face to face like this. And clearly, we should be doing it more. Now that we at least have figured out these time differences, that it's not so wild. It's really just got to talk to you in the morning, and you'll be talking to me at night just before you go to
Yeah.
bed.
No, it's earlier. It's just before dinner. So
Okay,
also
cool.
so it's not so late. I'm not going to sleep just we finish. It's like maybe 3 hours before we go to, because in Spain you have been in
Yeah,
Spain a lot of times, and we have this crazy timing where we the our last meal is at maybe 9 or 10 at night, and we go
that's
to
right.
bed at 12,
Yeah,
even one a.m. We go
mhm.
to sleep. So it's a
Yeah.
crazy way of life. When I travel out of Spain, I understand how crazy we are with
When I
this.
was younger, I could handle that.
Yeah.
Now I'm into my elderly time schedule, so I have dinner at like 4:30. But then that gives me the rest of the night to snack.
Yeah. I prefer. Now I work at home. We are been working at home since I began to work in comic books, and you need this stability in your schedules and your habits, because if you say, okay, I going to rest and I'm going to eat when I finish this,
Yeah, yeah,
with when you get old, and this is, you cannot handle this extreme habits. You need to,
no,
you
yeah,
you need
you have to create a schedule.
stability and make your pauses and your breaks. And
Yeah, yeah, no, we have a very tight schedule. Like we eat, lunch or whatever at uh, you know, on a regular basis, like just the exact same time every time. To the point that when we change things up, it screws my day up completely. Like I can't focus anymore or work. Like my son is coming out this week, and it feels like total chaos just because
yeah,
I won't be able to schedule things as I normally do, because yeah, you just can't. And that's
yeah,
why we
yeah,
just get
and you
so
need to advance work, because you want to spend time with him. You
yeah.
need to have free time, and you need to work a lot to save time for him. I have the same problem when I travel to see my parents, uh, and I need to be out of home, 3-4 days,
Yeah.
sometimes even a week, and I need to work a lot to make sure I will arrive to the deadline in a couple of weeks or whatever.
Yeah,
So
and then you bring your work anyway.
yeah,
Okay, so let me just go ahead and let's get officially started here.
okay,
So for those of you on my channel who somehow aren't familiar with Victor, between his own work and the work that we've done together, I've got my cheat sheet here. I'm going to read some stuff. So Victor, like me, is largely known for being a creator-owned artist. He works for other companies. He's done some really interesting stuff. Did a crazy project recently with Porsche, I believe it was. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But some of the best things he's known for, that he's written and done on his own, Polar, which was this amazing silent comic that Dark Horse later published with dialogue. But the fact that he was able to do it silent meant that anybody from around the world was able to read this spy magazine or story. And if you're interested in pure storytelling, Polar is something you definitely want to check out. it was then later picked up by as a film starring Mads Mikkelsen, which was like really fun, old-fashioned, high action, high octane kind of stuff. Really fun, so check that out. Against Hope, he wrote and drew. Rashomon for Dark Horse, he did his own version of that, which is beautiful in black and white. Paranoia Killer for Panel Syndicate. Fahrenheit 451 adaptation. Is that just in Spain, or is that available?
Yeah, but right now this is just Spain. But I hope they sell the rights to other countries, because this is the publisher Planeta is a very big publisher in Spain. He published a lot of novels, and he's very interested in selling this. They have a line of graphic novels and with a very international vocation of sell to. Because this adaptation is official, we have the permission of the Ray Bradbury family. So let's cross fingers. I think being Red Bradbury in the title, I think it will be easy to sell to USA. I hope so, sure. Because if not, I feel very insecure about my own art. If I cannot sell a Red Bradbury graphic novel. But I'm sure now it's the Frankfurt Fair, or it's a very important European fair to sell rights, and I hope they sell the book to a lot of language. I hope so.
I'm sure it will. And over here in the United States, the graphic novels, especially graphic novels, are based on previous books, are actually doing pretty well.
Especially being an American writer.
Yeah, he's kind of a big deal. And on top of that, I mean, there's just too much stuff for your list. I was going to do this joke where I was just going to take a deep breath and go, and he also went because there's so much. This is one of the things I admire about you, and that one of the reasons why I've always wanted to work with you is because how prolific you are. You seem like me. If you don't have a job that you're working with somebody else or a work for hire thing, you're immediately just going to go into something that you create yourself. And that's just one of the things I've always admired. So besides your own stuff, you've also worked with other collaborators. You and I and Brian Glass worked for a long time together on Mice Templar. Super proud of that series. And that's really what solidified our relationship. Like, I knew you before that, but as we really got into that got us to become much closer. Then you worked with Brian Glass on Furious for Dark Horse. It's about a superhero story. Violent Love and Elixir with Frank Barbier. Am I saying his name right? Barberi? I've never said it out loud. I'm
not sure, because he's an Italian surname, but he only speaks English. So I think we pronounce his name in a very different. I say Barbiere because it's the Spanish Italian pronunciation, but I think he says Barbiere, but I'm not sure. I call it Frank.
So it seems like you've and besides those projects I've just listed, you've worked on a lot more. There's like just a ton and really impressive stuff. The Godzilla working on that was like a big deal. You're doing a little bit of the universe right now. In the past, you've just done so many works. There was a thing that just came out through Mad Cave with one of their big hits, which was Nottingham.
Yeah, the Nottingham. It's a spin-off of the Nottingham series, and I made one shot with Magdalene. And it was great because they let me color my own stuff. So
that's great.
It's great when they let me do it.
So just go. There's some links below that I'm putting on to here, if they're not already on here, of Victor's work, including your link tree, which makes it easier to really find a lot of the stuff that you've done. So that's just a short introduction to Victor's work. So I got to ask you then, I have this problem, which is because we work a lot and we'll work far ahead of schedule sometimes. So sometimes the books will come out sort of on top of each other or nearby. Do you have trouble telling people what you're doing? Because
absolutely. Absolutely. Because you're working on a lot of things at the same time. And you don't know when they will be released, and sometimes you found you are doing one of your books is fighting with the others because they do the release the same month or in very different projects, and it's right now publishers are releasing a lot of books, and they have very few time and resources to promote them. And it looks like the authors, the creators must do this task. and you have to use this time when you finish your daily work, to your daily job, to promote the books, and you must to how I say it, to prioritize. Okay, what do I want to promote? What is more important now? What is on the shelves right now? And you know, when people ask you what are you doing, you say, oh, okay, a lot of things. And
it's like, what do you mean, what am I doing now, or do you mean what did I do did before that's coming out now?
Yeah, the good part of doing of having a comic adapted to a TV movie is a very good introduction to people who don't know your work, because maybe he knows the movie, or he knows they know the actor, they know the movie, and you can say, okay, you can begin just with this book, which for me is very cool with Polar, because it's one of my personal projects. I was very lucky, because if you want to know me as an actor and as a creator, sorry, Polar is certainly the best book you can find to define the kind of stuff I love and I love to do. I love to read and I love to see or to watch.
Yeah.
So I am very lucky with it. So when somebody ask me about what is my work, what's my book, I used to say, okay, you can begin with Polar if you like crime or spy stories.
Polar is your work condensed, I feel like, from a creative point of view, because again, you told your story silently, so you didn't have dialogue to get you through anything. So creatively, artistically, it's just pure storytelling, which is the thing that you and I really focus on more than anything else, I think, is this visual storytelling. And you were able to use, because you were free of having to worry, it was digital first. You didn't have to worry about, well, will people buy this if it's black and white? Does it need to be in color? And you were able to go, you know what, I can just do this limited color palette. I'm just going to use red. Which is something I followed up through later doing Blue Book, of simply using one color. And in your high contrast style, you're able to do stuff that you couldn't do with full color. You know, there's there are limitations sometimes are much more freeing. Like you can do bigger things with limitations than you can do with just anything. So like when I saw you do Polar, of course I've always admired your work and knew you were great. And you know, every time you did something, you knocked out of the ballpark. But Polar was that thing where I was like, oh, Victor's like really, truly found himself. In a way he hasn't before. And I think you can then see how Polar's affected all of your other work since.
Yeah, and it's a very good definition, because the limitations were not only, I think, you can put on yourself to make your work more interesting, because they were real limitations, because the reason of the silent option was because I had no time and not the resources to make the story in different language, because I wanted everybody could read it. So okay, what's the universal languages, visuals, and at the same time, what you say, you and I, we are creators very interested on what comic books make more interesting, and more comic books themselves. That is the storytelling is the thing that makes unique this medium. So I'm completely obsessed about the composition and the storytelling and the pacing, and how can you manipulate the reader to stop on this panel and you know, making a path for their eyes. And I'm completely obsessed about it. So Polar is pure storytelling. The art is only a complement to the storytelling, but everything is built around the storytelling, around and for the storytelling. So this is why I think is the best definition of my work is that book.
Yeah, for sure. And it was, I know you didn't do it for this purpose, but as you said, because it's silent, it could be read by anybody. You know, like it was like an old Charlie Chaplin film. You know, they were universal. You know, they could reach anybody anywhere around the world. So I was really happy when, not only just to see the book, and then when it came out later through Dark Horse, and then there's their choice to want to have dialogue in there once it's printed. which is kind of appropriate for just it's a different format, right? Because now it's not
Yeah,
all over the
yeah,
world.
it's really different. I think it's not a bad option because they really wanted to do that to publish a book, but it was very difficult to sell a silent book.
Yeah.
So they asked me, okay, just put a few dialogues if you want, but we need dialogues. So I thought about it, and I thought, okay, let's do it something different. We are going to have always the silent book. You can find in polarcomic.com the book, the first book. Dark Horse never asked me to remove the original free online book. So I tried to do something different with dialogues in the Polar graphic novels, and I try to use dialogues like like the lyrics in the songs. So a way to stop the reader when they are reading. So dialogue is part of the composition of the of the graphics, and when I wanted the reader to stop in one point of the story, I use dialogues to make them stop, and then when they wanted they read fast, I remove every dialogue. So it was interesting to use the dialogue, not more like a exposition of the story, so more like like the how's the name of the tool of the car to make faster or slower, like that. So it's a very different way to work, but it was very exciting.
Yeah, and then one of the things, so after Project Monarch, which we'll talk about in a minute, that's the first book that I really fully lettered, and that's where I really started to wrap my head around lettering, not so much as the art form, because I don't want to pretend like I'm a good letterer, it's fine, but as far as the pacing goes, sometimes when you have a lot of words that are important, they do exactly what you just said. They slow the page down, they stop you. And sometimes that's what you want, but sometimes that's not what you want. And then this new project that I'm working on, I'm also lettering, and I'm realizing that it's like, oh, like when do I make sure, when am I using dialogue as pacing, which is something I've never thought of before. And you had that experience now. So do you find in your writing now that's affected that? Like, are you thinking about that sort of pacing when you're writing your scripts?
Yeah, totally. I think on pacing, and I think on even in composition, because the balloons are also composition elements. And
yes,
and I'm sure now you have lettering your own book. You're thinking more when right now when you are penciling a page. I'm sure you think more about where you're going to place the balloons, because they're one of these paths I say about you can drive the eye of the reader. I remember I think it was Will Eisner who said that here he had the theory that the reader needs to read the order of the balloons even without watching the drawings. If you erase the drawing and you only left the balloons of the page, you should be able to read in the correct order the balloons. Sometimes you cannot do it exactly that way because you have a visual medium, but it's interesting having this in mind because it's a way to order the page too.
It reminds me of, so I think when I was doing, well, Will Eisner was a big influence on me with this kind of being clever with the layout. And then when I was doing a book called Cave Carson and I got really crazy with the layout stuff, that's when I started to realize how much, like word balloons, the borders, that your panel borders, like they're part of the language, and it guides the eye. You can move somebody's eye, which feels really good. It's like a magic trick. Like, you're going to move somebody's eye. And I've seen you do this once or twice where you can make panels go backwards, but still make it readable. You turn the page into a maze where you're just zigzagging all over. So it's weird that two of the quietest parts of a comic book page, the borders and the word balloons, are almost as powerful as the actual art and the writing when it comes to pacing and flowing the story.
I think in terms of pacing, when I write, and I always write. I don't know if you do it, but I don't. I always write a document. I write a dialogues, not exactly a technical script when I write. Always if it's for me. If I write for another person, of course I do a technical. It's
Sure.
open, but it's more technical, like your script. But when I write for myself, I think more on the dialogues and the actions. But it's more similar to a movie script because
Yeah.
I'm not thinking of every page. I'm thinking more in scenes of groups of pages.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure if I'm sure it happens to you, but when you are later drawing the page, you later are changing dialogues and
Oh yeah.
erasing, removing parts because you see you don't need to explain things because you are drawing the thing. So
Yeah.
okay, that's dialogue. He don't need to say the thing because you are saying that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
it's
Exactly. Or you're improvising a little bit as you go,
yeah
and sometimes that improvisation gives you a different idea, and now suddenly you're way off script.
yeah
And you
because
have to bring it back, or
yeah
yeah.
because I'm sure you are insecure because you are writing a lot. And when we worked together in Monarch, you even we finished the art. You were rewriting a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you feel insecure about that. But I must say I never trust a writer who, after saying the art, don't change anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
maybe.
yeah. It is a partnership. It is a big
Yeah.
dance. Brian Bendis will constantly change the script after I hand in pages. Usually he's taking stuff out. Mostly it's that. Mostly he's taking stuff out. But yeah, like everything bounces back and forth. And like even as the letterer, sometimes I'm like, I'll reduce figures or the panels that I'm working on, or the opposite of taking words out because I realize it doesn't fit, and you have to bounce back and forth. When I write for myself, I write a full script, and I play a mind trick where I pretend like somebody else is drawing it, because otherwise my scripts become too loose, and it's not until after it's published that I realize I don't like this.
Yeah. Well, okay. I think it's different if if you are writing and drawing for yourself, and you will search for a publisher an editor later, or
Yeah.
if you are you're writing and drawing for an editor because okay, you have another person and he or she needs to understand what's happening.
Yeah. Even in creator own thing. But I definitely noticed when I was doing After Realm for myself, I was getting really sloppy in my because I knew what I wanted, but sometimes you can get too self-indulgent, and so like there was a lot of rewriting there as well. We got a comment over here from Goblinex. Let's say that's what it says here, but also emphasizing that we should treat the balloons as part of the art. And this is something I was always taught, and my friends like David Mack and Brian had always talked about this, but it wasn't really until I lettered that I discovered what that really means. Because up till then, I just made sure that there was enough headspace for word balloons. I mean, you can see right now, I framed this. I always frame my thing. It's not to show off powers. I tend to just leave this, 1/4 section up here for word balloons whenever I take photos or anything, because I'm just so trained to just leave space. But now I understand it's more than just space. It's part of moving the eye. It's part of the rhythm of the page, and it's part of moving stuff. So speaking of the lettering and all that, let's talk a little bit about Project Monarch. It looks like you finally got your comps in. I finally got my copies. It's strange because Victor and I worked on this. We started this before the pandemic. I believe it was 2018, 2019.
19, yeah. I always open a label in my laptop, in my computer, and Project Monarch is 19, the beginning of the when I talk, not when we talk the first time, when I began to draw, it was 19.
Yeah.
We have a lot of projects. We began at 19.
Well, I think because part of that was you and I, we have a lot of work for hire and our own work as well. So I think when we started this, it was like, hey, let's do something together. There wasn't a schedule on it at first. So
No.
we just started with some sketches and some pages, I think. I don't know how much of it we had before we brought it to Dark Horse. I don't remember. Do you remember how much was done at that point?
I'm not sure because I have another I think I'm not. I have I think sorry. I'm sure I talked with Matt K, for example, but I'm not sure it was with Elixir or no, Matt K, no, maybe Vault. I don't remember. I'm sure because I developed Elixir at the same time than Project Monarch, so we talked with different publishers, or maybe with Image. Maybe we wanted to do it with Image. Comics, I'm not sure.
We didn't know because it was a weird project. We didn't know if it was. I think all we knew that is that it would be a graphic novel. So yeah, I mean, and then so we just tend to work on things ahead of time. I'm sure you're working on stuff right now that you don't even have a release date on or any idea. Like they're just stories that you're building. Yeah. So that's kind of what this was, and then we eventually brought it to Dark Horse to get a deal, and then we had deadlines. So at this point, I had to, because this is a conspiracy satire, but when you're talking about conspiracy and satires, it's kind of hard to tell what's a satire and what's a conspiracy.
Yeah. And this is the reason I was very into Philip K. Dick when we talk about, because I never was a fan of him. I have read a couple of his books, basically Blade Runner, the ship's Electric Dreams, and Ubik, because it was the more for the influence of Matrix and the Invisibles, and this very accessible novel.
Yeah.
But when all the pandemic and all this last, I became a very hardcore fan of Philip K. Dick, basically because we were living at chaos and need a way to live inside this changing, I don't know, crazy environment. Yeah. So I embrace K. Dick to a way to embrace chaos and live with it. Yeah.
Conspiracy-driven mind, his whole idea, and like we make a reference to it in the book, Valis, which I didn't read Valis. I just pretended like I did, so I look smart. But it's one of those stories that's really hard to understand anyway. But it's very Matrix-like about a manipulation of reality around us. And as far as the conspiracy stuff goes, I've always been interested in it, more in sort of the psychology of it than the actuality or how real it is or isn't, or the ones that are real versus the ones that aren't. But what I found really interesting about MK Ultra and the mind control stuff, that in the United States with the CIA, so much of that is true. Not true that they were successful.
No, of course.
But true that they were trying to do this stuff for so long. And it's so bizarre. And we didn't even put the darkest, most bizarre stuff in here. It was just too dark and too weird and too bizarre. When you start reading that and you see that it's real, and you see congressional hearings where they're, bringing all the truth out and stuff, I could see what, I don't know if you have this term in Spain, a slippery slope. So, you're standing on the edge of a hill and it's just easy to slide down.
Oh, yeah.
So once you look at MK Ultra and how crazy that is, it's not that hard to believe, in this conspiracy and the government's trying to control these people and to do this and stuff. And then it just as I was writing it originally, my original outline goes back to 2013. And it was around 2015 or so that things in the United States really started to get crazy, where conspiracy stuff went very mainstream. And we had this incident called Pizzagate here, where part of these conspiracies was about running child slavery out of a pizza shop in Washington.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy showed up with a gun there, So like when you first hear some of these crazy stuff, it's easy to sort of laugh off or to concentrate on how insecure people can get about what's going on in the world, and it drives him to dark places. But then we started to see this stuff actually happening, and it got scary, and it scared me in the writing, because I didn't want to. As you started to see, violence flare up around these conspiracy theories, I didn't want to be part of it. I didn't want to contribute to it, and I didn't want to seem like even my joking was feeding into it. So I had to do a lot of rewriting after you had drawn it already to kind of get around it. But I think ultimately that was a good thing, because I had too much exposition in the book. I was so interested in the conspiracy theories. The earlier drafts had a lot of explaining of the conspiracy theories and different, it was like a tour of conspiracy theories. And ultimately I realized, largely through Taki, and when she wrote her own book, Sleeping While Standing, and she became like a ninja as an editor, like just cutting everything, all the fat was just cut out of it. And it really taught me to edit my writing, especially my dialogue. I used to have like big dialogue balloons because I'm trying to find the scene as I'm writing the dialogue, which was a backwards way of doing it. And it was fine sometimes, but what I found was cutting all the fat as much as possible, and really concentrating on the family side of the story. The family drama of like this guy fucked up his family and is trying to get it back together. I don't know where I'm going with that. I guess.
No, but it's interesting because one danger we have as creators is when we know too much about one subject, we can be really annoying explaining how much we know, because you feel enthusiastic about it and you want to share all this knowledge about it, and you need okay. Maybe all the people is not interested on this crap. So, but I think it's a good thing, because you want to share this stuff with this interest on this of the conspiracy war. But the way to share with people is the human element of the story. Not here in every story. Even you want to tell a political story, I don't know, a story about science, whatever. You need to a bait or a link to. Bait is a more commercial word, but I will say a link to the reader, and the human element is the link which tie together to because maybe these people who is reading the book are not interested in the conspiracy war.
Exactly. Like the conspiracy stuff can't be the driver of it. Really, it really has to be something that's more relatable. Otherwise, it could just be almost like a journalistic approach to conspiracy stuff. And we could literally just spread it out or spell it out and stuff. But I'm glad we didn't, and I'm glad. Unfortunately, just the other day where I was cleaning out the studio and I had piles of scripts, like all of our revisions, right? So there must have been, each script had to be 110 pages long, and I had like 6 versions, and one of the things that I learned from Brian Bendis was to not ask the artist to redraw anything. Like once you get the script and you've committed to it, there's a time element there. It's more than like egos or I don't want to insult somebody or anything. Like it's a practicality. And as a writer, if I have to change something, I need to work with the art. And that was a great lesson too. Like as I sort of turned things around and like changed some of the direction, that was a really fun challenge. Like I've never worked with anybody or on another project the way that I worked with you on Monarch. There was so much sort of back and forth. And I'm really proud of that, because at the end it all came together, and it felt chaotic sometimes. Like I was in real doubts. I was like, everybody's going to hate me and this sucks. They're going to work with me again.
No, but the good part is we both are artists. We draw. So if even with I know the Bendis rule is perfect because it makes sense. We cannot fix things. We cannot just think. We can remove this panel. We can change this without problem. And it's like we can do this story about the Marvel reshoots, that they are reshooting all the day because they are not. They suddenly discover that the show is not good and they need to reshoot. The good part is we can reshoot what we want. We cannot redraw the entire book, but we can reshoot something, some detail. This scene is not appropriate, or this scene is not make sense. So we can fix things, and maybe it's a little chaotic too, but we can afford it because we are artists.
Yeah. Well, and it's also good that we can demand it of ourselves, and that's one of the things that the difference between working for work for hire and create our own stuff. For ourselves, if the book works or doesn't work, it's all on us. And even in failure, that's a better thought for me, because if I fail on something that I did, I can only have myself to blame, and there's nobody else that I can kind of aim my frustration at, because that's not a good feeling, So one of the things that I love about this kind of stuff is that it's all on us, the good side and the bad side. And it gives you a sense of control that you don't get anywhere else, especially in life as life gets crazy.
Yeah, I'm more focused on and do the book the best way I can. Okay, what I don't want to feel is this book is published and I could have this work better. I could do this work better and didn't do it because I felt lazy, or I didn't want to risk in this scene or with this storytelling. And it's my obsession to when I see the book published, and okay, this all is okay. There's not mistake. This character, which has a patch in the right eye, is the patch is drawn in the left eye in the other panel. These kind of things. But I'm not very obsessed with the failure of the success of the book in a commercial way, because if I try it, if the editor made to the proper thing and made the effort, if later the book failure or success is not on my hands, because there is a lot of elements around, because a lot of works which were super breaking storytelling never worked because they were early at their time.
Yes.
And sometimes you see a lot of crap, which has been successful books or movies, and you see it's completely shit. And why this is so popular? This shit, I don't. It's a lot of elements you can control, but I cannot feel I could try to do something good and didn't try because I didn't want it or feel like I want to. It's a way to like sleep calm at night to. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not an obsession for work. I'm not a workaholic at this level.
Yeah.
But I want to do things in a good way and not do it, I don't know how to explain. Sometimes these things are difficult to explain in another language, but basically
we're at a place in our career where we're blessed enough to be able to do work and have it get out, and maybe get paid something. But knowing there's a consistent thing there, it takes the pressure off of needing it to be a hit. Because we've learned at this point that you can do the best work you've ever done through the right publisher, but if it's just not the right time and there's something else going on, and that's why sometimes things that we might not like, people are relating to it for a different reason, like a really vapid superhero show or a really dumb reality show. Maybe people I needed a dumb reality show for a couple of years during the pandemic. I watched a lot of cooking competition shows that were just terrible.
But the one that
at that point, I needed something light. So it takes the pressure off of what we do. Also, I'm really glad that the market is changing very much. So the direct market with Diamond is less the focus now than say the life that a book can have on a bookshelf. Which is again why I'm happy that we did this as a graphic novel, and many of your other books have been graphic novels, and they have a longer shelf life than the floppy books. So that also makes things a little bit easier, and just not worry about like, well, is this going to be a hit or not, and just you take it when it comes.
Maybe the dark side of it, I really prefer this option to have these long-term books, but at the same time, you don't know. I have no experience about it. How to promote the book, how to explain to people what I'm doing, because we are working all the time and we're producing new books, and I fear these first books are buried over a lot of releases and releases, and how to you don't know how to stand out from the
It
other
is very
books.
difficult. Yeah. It was a little easier for a while when social media seemed to be working. Now it's all sort of broken. And I'm concentrating more, and I noticed you do this as well, on your websites and newsletters, or something like this, where we're speaking directly to our core audience, because I think a lot of Twitter and even Instagram is you'll get a like on the thing, but I don't think anybody's reading it or looking at it.
Yeah, I have the same feeling. It's like I have more followers than ever, but I have less interactions than ever.
Yep.
I don't understand how this math works.
Yeah, I noticed, like, even on the new platforms like Threads versus Blue Sky. Blue Sky, I have much less followers than I have on Threads. And on Threads, I probably get more likes to a particular thing, but nobody responds to anything. There are no comments. There's no actual interactions. Whereas Blue Sky is smaller, but it seems to be getting actual interactions from people. And then Twitter, I just stopped using, because without a blue check, you can see nobody sees your posts. So if you're promoting something, why are you spending your time and money there? And I don't judge people who do. It's just I got to the point where it was one less thing to do on my schedule, because you're right, it's so hard. I have a list up here that shows me my cascading promotions. So it goes newsletter, website, blog, later.com, which sends it out to Instagram and Facebook. Then Threads, Blue Sky. I kind of like TikTok and YouTube. It's a lot. It's a lot to try.
It's a lot. And we need to be, and I think editors in some point demand you be your public relations of yourself.
For the company. Yeah.
But because they are releasing a lot of books and they have no time to promote, so they say, okay, promote yourself. But it's very difficult because you need to right now I spend more than an hour every day working on social media, not only writing posts, but I'm preparing the images in the correct resolution, the correct format, because Instagram needs to be square and this shit. I hate it, and I want to what.
You have to make sure they can follow the links.
And you write the correct link, because I pass all the wrong links always, and I want to record some videos drawing the books, and you have your big cartel store and a lot of things, and you feel like you are saving time every day to get some hours only to draw. All right.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like, many people won't know this, but besides just social media stuff, you have all sorts of emails and contracts.
Yeah, of course.
And because we work from home, which is a blessing, and I would never, ever complain about it, all the other stuff happens all the time. So whether you're dealing with a health issue or life insurance stuff or electric bills or just any kind of paperwork that it's not like there's a time for that. It's always the time for that, like, I notice I'll get probably at most an hour straight worth of work before I have to do something else. Laundry is being done, or it's time for this paperwork thing that has to get done, or something, But again, I'd rather that than working in office any day. But it's hard to. So, like, I posted my schedule the other day, and it shows every single day is working. It showed that the month of November, and every single day has a line on it with a project. But I'm not working 9 to 5. Like you can take breaks, and there's all this other stuff that gets in the way. So it doesn't seem as crazy as it might seem, considering how many hours we work.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got a question over here, which I want to bring back to the art, to talk about some of the art stuff. They were wondering if there was like an Alex Toth kind of approach to writing, conveying things with only the words absolutely needed. And they're absolutely right. I mean, this is what I learned from Taki. Taki had really taught me how to trim down my dialogue, not just through having literally less words, but figuring out the right words that mean more.
Yeah.
Like choose the right phrase that says something more than the car is blue. You figure out another phrasing. Well, that's really short already, so that's a bad example. But there are ways of saying things that says more about it than just the words you're using, and paints a wider picture. And that was a really great lesson, and it's really hard.
Yeah, I used my disadvantage because English is not my language, so I have so my approach when I doing a graphic novel for the US and I write in it. My approach is completely different when I write in English and when writing in Spanish, because there is a lot of things in English I cannot do, and I need uh, to work with a friend who corrects me the grammar, and later an editor to fix things. So I try to transform this in disadvantage in an advantage, because some of my favorite writers are very Stark people. It's like Richard Stark, for the Stark, Donald Westlake, and Cormac McCarthy, and the Road, and there are people who use a very simple grammar, and very simple sentence, and I learn a lot from them, because it makes me write very simple, try to think simple, because it's the way you will not scrape up the grammar of the sentence or the dialogues, but at the same time forces you to choose very carefully what you want to say, and at the same time it makes you be more clear in the images too, because you as much as you show, less you need to write. So for me it's something useful, and I try to use this weakness of me in a strange for the comic books.
It's one of the things that you were just saying about these writers, they can say more with less words. So they're not using flowery language, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a strength in being able to say something simply. But if you choose the right simple words, it says so much more. The descriptives, that's what we call them, is the descriptives, like how how you describe something, and the adjectives that you're using to be able to get so much more meaning across with one word, instead of using 5 words, or using a really long word that's
the dialogues I'm most proud of, they were dialogues with 3-4 sentences, very simple, but they were very meaning in the context of the story and the images. And when I made, it's very few dialogues I really am proud of, maybe 3-4, but when I get it, it was because they fit perfectly with the point of the story and the images which share the scenario. So and it was basically 2-3 sentences, in present. No flouritures, no.
Taki just wrote into the comments, because she's in the other room getting ready, and she calls it attic writing, where it's like you're working with a hammer and a nail, and your sentence is like bam, 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 right? And we talk about this all the time, where I'll have a little bit of word salad, where it's just the words are saying what I want to say, but it's just a little either clumsy or sloppy, and we'll work on breaking that down into 1 or 2 sentences, especially when there's like a reveal happening. Like when you have a reveal in a story, you can't have 3 or 4 lines to say what you can say in 1 line, because it becomes so much more powerful when you say that. And it's such a good feeling. Like we'll sit there and we'll work over it, and it's hard work and discouraging at first, but when you get it, it feels so good. And like sometimes talking out, like just high five. There's a great course out there. Taki's also mentioning this in the chat. We took the Alan Moore masterclass writing thing.
Oh yeah.
It was brilliant. First of all, he was super pleasant and just not the grumpy old man that he has a reputation for, but he was an encouraging, loving, caring writer, and talking about not what to write or even how to write, but how to think about writing. And he goes through all these different sort of like writing exercises that were really interesting, like how to write a story without using the word "the" or the color red, and like these exercises that wrap your head around language and how you can truncate it and make it sharper and get to the point. So I highly recommend it for anybody who's interested in writing. But I also want to ask you about the Alex Ho thing. Like, when you start a page, what is your first step art wise? Are you doing a thumbnail for yourself? Do you thumbnail just panels? Do you do a sketch into the page, or do you just start? There's so many different ways. So
yeah, when usually I don't do thumbnails. I only did it when I remember when I worked for Boom and IDW, they asked me for the thumbnails. But what I used to do is make the pencils quick and later draw the thumbnails, because I cannot. I used to do it because I'm quick. I'm more quick doing the pencils than doing the thumbnails. But like they demanded, I did it, and
I was trying to see that example.
But it was a good. It was a good exercise. But what basically what for example, with the Mice Templar script and your Monarch script, I used it to print the script and draw in stick figures what is happening, because I don't want to make any mistake, because the script is in English and I need to be clear what's happening in every page. But it's basically stick figures, very very ugly drawings in the sides of the page.
Yep.
And later I do the page directly, because I always conceive the page like a complete unit. So I deal with the blank page directly, which but I think I'm insecure about my art, about the inking, the everything. But I think the only thing I think I'm really good is on making a composition directly. Like I think is my best. Is my best. My highest point. My best strength, because I can do it. I have in my mind, and I have very clear how is every character, how to place the dialogues, and I make it really quick. And I think a gift for it. I say later I will do a bad inking of these faces will be wrong, and I will be not satisfied with things. But this thing is my strong point, doing that, and it's basically the process, because I when I decide what is the key elements of the page, and I place them. I usually do this. It depends on the storytelling, because it's different too. When I have in Mice Templar, for example, is more an organic storytelling with natural elements, and you can play with figures can blend with the panels and with other features. And Project Monarch is more a chaotic puzzle when you move all you can be, and it's when in another, for example, in Fahrenheit, I use patterns of equal panels of you're faced with the page in a very different, I don't know, vibe.
Sure.
But
every project kind of dictates a different approach. Like
I try to do a very different approach of what they need, because the use of the panels, if you use very straight with no with perpendicular lines, or you want to twist the panels and make everything crazy. And but basically it's the defining the key parts of the page I need to more to make more more important, and of course having a corridor for the dialogues, because this character is, it seems very dumb, but a lot of people forget things so basic, like this character is talking first, this other is talking later, and you need to have these characters placed this way, because they are going to talk in this order later. So sometimes these things is the best way to begin with the page, because they are the needs of the page, and later
I hear when people artists say that they're kind of lost on where to start, and like I don't start in my imagination. I start with what does the script need. So like you in the margins, I'll draw a thumbnail of the panels first, just needing to know not only sort of the pacing, but which is the most important panel, which is the one that's going to be the largest,
Yeah, it's the
and
same.
what the layout is going to be. Then how much dialogue is on the page and who is speaking first. Now, once I know who's speaking first, then I can start using my mind and my imagination. The only exception to that is if it's a project like Monarch or Cape Carson, where there are a lot of crazy layouts.
Yeah, of course.
Then I think that idea of like you'll know what kind of crazy layout you want based on the emotion of the page. So if it's a lot of fighting, then there's probably going to be a lot of like sort of triangular panels, right? If it's a crazy psychedelic dream page, then maybe these wavy panels. If somebody's lost on a page, then you're going to think like a maze. How do you make things like a maze? But you did this great maze page in Monarch where Stanley is being pulled out of the hospital. I love that. That was so great. So cool. But yeah, I don't do detailed thumbnails either. Partially is because I could see it in my head so clearly, and my pencils are really, really light. You know, there's hardly anything on the page when I'm penciling. So it's hard to show anybody stuff ahead of time. It's basically just sort of figures and light, sketchy stuff. Because it happens almost just before the inks, really.
Yeah. I love when I see your pencils of artists I like, especially when they are not faithful to the first pencils, and they go crazy and change things. I love this. I love authors like, for example, Mike Mignola, who is a genius with the inkings. When you see his pencils and his inks, and it's all there. Yeah. There is not improvisation. He's very clear where the shadows are, where the composition are. It's very, and the pencils you can see that perfectly. But I love other artists like you, for example, or even Frank Miller, where when you say he has make a pencil, but when you say he had a problem with, he was inking and make a solution and find a solution in the inking to fix it. Sure, I love this. Trying to see how the other artists fix their problems, because I think this is our job at the end when we are drawing, is fix problems we have to. I love Eduardo Rizzo told me that he began to make these big black masses of ink because he wanted to hide the things he cannot draw when he was beginning, and I was follow this because it's the same. He transformed his weakness to draw some things in a way to tell a story. So I love when I saw these pencils and these things.
Yeah, and Mignola's stuff is amazing when you look at his pencil. It's so detailed. Like everything. I tried to do more of that because sometimes when I'm kind of faking a shape. It doesn't feel the same, you know. There's a reason for the madness, and it works out. But I don't know. Everybody has a different approach to this stuff. So we're going to wrap this up. But next time we should talk again about just digital art, because that's really cool. I think it's really cool. A whole bunch of other different steps. Some are similar and some are different. And I know you do both. You work analog and digital, and it'll be great to talk about that as well. Yeah, because I made this. I think Polar was. I'm not sure it was the first work I made in digital. I think it was the second one. I think because I made Against Hope, but I think I was doing Elixir and Monarch at the same time. But I think I began with the. Atlas, I think, is my first long job doing with digital. So I think it's very interesting, that chapter to develop. Yeah, and the amount of work you have to put in to make it not look digital, to make it look like your regular work. It's funny. But I have this discussion with other artists because they told me, no, digital is digital, analog is analog. We should look different, and I think it's a very interesting debate because they had their point too, and the reasons they gave me. Yeah. So it's interesting. Let's talk about that next time. Let's get together and talk about that, and then we can talk about our secret project next time. Yeah, the two. Our next secret project that we can't talk about right yet. But Victor, thank you so much. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a great comic book artist and creator. Somebody who I can rely on when I want to work with somebody else. Somebody who I can admire just by looking at what you do and how you run your life and your career. And I can't wait to get together with you again in Spain sometime.
Okay, always can say that I feel exactly the same because we are brothers of the same mother in different continents. So we are just symbiotic feeling relationship.
Yes.
So it will be great to
Spain is like my second
chat
home.
with.
I've been there more
Yeah,
than any place else in the world. So
yeah.
yeah. So all right. So we will talk again soon. Anybody who's interested in Victor's work, there will be links below, so you can find him online, and you can find his work online. And that's it, man. I look forward to it. We'll talk soon, man.
We talk soon. See you very
All right.
soon.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.